Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries Live with Tanya Hood. I'm glad I get the chance to see you, and I'm hoping that you listen to this morning's episode. Because if you have, then you're aware that we were having a conversation with a special guest. Now, James is not going to be able to join us this afternoon because he had something else that came up, but I want you to go back and listen to this morning's episode so that you can get some insight that he shared. Because I don't know how many of you are aware that holding on to past pains could be the real reason why you're stuck in your life, unable to move forward, and have all these weird, chaotic things happening with the online dating scene. But I want you to also know that if you could just let go of the things that hurt you the most, you could unlock the freedom that you need to become the person that you were always meant to be. So let me pause a few moments because I'm just going in and I want to make sure that I can see those of you that are joining us on LinkedIn. I'm still trying to get used to all the multiple places that this is showing up, but I'm glad I get the chance to be present with you. Yes, thank you so much for being here. Glad I get the chance to see you guys. So, as we go through this process in the multiple places that we are streaming, put your comments below. It gives me an opportunity to see you, engage a little bit longer. But there are a few touch points that I want to share with you as we go along through this process. So, if you have not yet listened to this morning's episode, let me do a quick recap. James Newberry, he is the author of Dating Profile Secrets for Men. Now, this is a conversation that he has tailored towards men, but it works well for women who want to get a little more insight about how you're showing up in the online space. Because what we sometimes forget, we're always advertising. We market who we are when we show up on the workplace, when we show up on different elements. This is something that you can fine tune because James Newberry is a marketing individual who has transferred his skills. Now, several of you have heard me share that how we function in our personal world and our professional world, we can merge some of those elements to give ourselves an edge. So, if you are walking through looking at how you are managing things in your professional environment, take a look and see how you can apply those personally. Because it was there for me that I often went through. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And I'll get to that in a few moments. So I am in a couple of different places, and I saw a question that was asked, why is it so hard to let go of past pains and broken trust? Well, I'm glad that you asked that because this discussion that I was having, and let me have this conversation with you, a little more personal with this. In this conversation that I was having in this episode with James, we were sharing some of the things that you can do because a lot of people go to the dating scene online because they're having some difficulties in the real world, so to speak. Because when you're meeting individuals and you're showing up in that space, sometimes you're carrying elements, an emotional baggage that you may not be realizing that's affecting you. And when we meet face to face, even if we don't have words to say, we have an energy that we sort of transfer with each other. Think about it like this. Have you ever walked into a room and you're thinking, something's off here? You don't quite know what it is, but you know something is going off? Well, our brains are wired to remember past pains, past emotions, past feelings, and it is in that element that it puts us on alert to protect us from any future harms. So you may be unaware of holding on to some cycle of your past that keeps you stuck. And I did that when I was going through the chaos of my first marriage. What I did not know until I walked through that pain and walked through those elements is that the emotional baggage that I had already carried, and I thought I resolved it because we walk through levels of healing and we forget that. So, what I want you to do is be patient with you. Give yourself some grace and space to heal through the process because it doesn't have to be so hard to go past a broken heart or pains that have experienced you. And I get it. There are levels to this. And there may be some pains in your past that you're just like, what I walk through, oh, I will never be able to come back from that. But I want to encourage you to know that as we work on elements of ourselves little by little, bit by bit, it's the levels of recovery. That's a good statement of saying the levels of recovery. You may go through level one of saying, hey, I'm going to let this be gone. I forgive them for what they did, and I'm going to move on about my business. But then you're triggered, and your brain remembers this is something that we went through. Be cautious. This is something that I previously experienced. Be cautious. And it is there that you will find yourself in a position where you're not so sure of how to get beyond it because you keep feeling like you're revisiting and reliving it. Well, there's something that I want to encourage you to do. It's something that I have done as well. And I often teach, share, and show what I know and do. So I am usually my first recipient of the things that have gone well, and I pass those on to you. Because whenever we find anything that we know works well or does good, we pass it on. So my first step that I had to do, acknowledge the pain. We don't want to acknowledge the hurt that we've gone through, the pain that we've gone through, be it personally or professionally. If you realize that the skill sets that you bring to the table on your professional environment seems to be passed over, it does something to you and it festers and it carries into other areas. So don't think that from a professional perspective that you're shielded if you decide to just ignore some elements, acknowledge what happened. Even if you have to write it down to yourself. Now, here's something else. A technique that I have often used in my personal world. When I go through emotional elements that seem to put me on a position where I'm struggling, I bought a grill in the aftermath of my divorce. Some of you know my story, so yeah, this is a repeat. On that grill, I put the things that I wrote out of my soul. So get a loose leaf sheet of paper. Write out the hurt, write out the pains, write out the impacts that you believe have taken place in your life. And that you think that because this didn't work out, maybe I can't get here, there, wherever. When you write it out, you release it from your body because the body does keep score. And your brain will stop reprocessing that as a pain point and keep triggering you each time it gets a glimmer. So write it out, acknowledge it. That gives you the chance to begin to grieve. That's the second thing. We have to grieve what we lose. And it's not just the loss of the relationship or the loss of a personal individual, because we think of grieving when we think of funerals or things like that. But we should think of grieving as just a way of releasing something that we just did not want to happen to us from our lives. Grieving allows you to give yourself the space and grace that you need to get whole. Grieving allows you to move through a process, and there's lots of different techniques that's available to you. If you can afford to go to a therapist, I strongly encourage you to do so. But find ways of giving yourself some element of relief. Journaling, meditating, dancing. For me, y'all, it was dancing. For a long time, the way I got through some of my pain was to get it out of my body by dancing again. I hadn't danced in years before I had my divorce. But when I went through that space, it freed me up. And because I was free, it opened me up to a new relationship. So a lot of you know that I'm in my new marriage. Yeah, I know I keep calling it a new marriage. But come this Friday, Eric and I will have been married for 14 years. And I still feel like I'm enjoying every single moment like it's new. So I keep calling it my new marriage. So as I release the pain from my past so my brain would not constantly remind me of it, I freed myself. I freed myself to love again. I freed myself to grow again. And for those of you that know my story, you know that in the chaos and the aftermath of that first marriage, I was homeless and unemployed because I just couldn't get it together. But when I released the pain and grieved the moment, I freed my brain up to start focusing on other things. We sometimes forget that we have to put ourselves in different spaces and places mentally. It could be a physical change in your environment, but you've got to make the changes nonetheless. And it is there that you will empower yourself to go from victimhood to empowerment to transform what you truly want. Now, granted, this will not be an overnight process, but it is one that you can do. So I'm hoping all of that answers your question. So thank you so much for asking. Let me pause for a second to see if there's any other comments, questions, or thoughts. All right. Now, here's one other thing that I want to share with you. Rebuilding trust. We have difficulties when we are walking through via an online experience because here's something that I want you to know that you can do to fix your love life. Trust again. And it starts with you trusting you. Yeah, you went through the stuff that you went through and it was difficult. And you chose that situation, that person, that moment. And you're thinking, if I chose that, then what else? Well, I want you to know that if you choose something that does not suit you well now, rebuild your trust in you. Choose again. And if you think that your picker is broken, because I thought that for a little while, because after my divorce, I started meeting, man, the chaos of the dating scene and the aftermath of my divorce surprised me. And I'm not the type of girl that could do the online dating thing. I'm sort of old fashioned and I want to see you face to face. I don't do well with trying to see how to virtually connect on a relationship level like that. So I needed to meet someone face to face. And in that meeting of that individual face to face, I chose to start evaluating Tanya's decision. Why did I choose this person? What was it about them? And I went through an analysis for myself because those of you that know me, you know that I have a natural, logical, analytical mind. So the nerd in me created a personal outline of my dating scene, an outline of my choices, an outline of the things that Tanya was drawn to so that I can give myself time to evaluate me and know that when I made a decision to choose, I had time to do what was necessary, analyze what was necessary for me, so that when I finally made a decision to say yes or no or maybe, I was clear and I built my trust for me. Building the trust that I needed for Tanya gave me the opportunity to start gaining an insight of what I could see as a window into building a trust in a relationship with someone new. Because when you focus on healing, setting healthy boundaries, you start to attract people that are healed, that are whole, and have healthy boundaries for themselves as well. And that I have learned from my conversation with James. So this morning, go back and listen to this morning's episode because he gave some key touch points that can support you. Because as women in the online dating scene, it is a dangerous environment for us in a lot of ways, but we open ourselves up again. But when you create the healthy boundaries that you need, when you start putting on your online ad or you're putting it out in your personal space, you will then attract the relationships that will nurture you rather than those that will drain you. Because rebuilding trust is a process, and it's a process that starts with you. So let me pause because I want to wrap up a few things. I stay a little bit longer as long as we are engaged. So if you want to have an engaging conversation, this gives us a chance to extend the discussions because this is an extended conversation from this morning's episode. So I want to thank those of you that have listened. And if you have not yet listened to season 4, episode 26, go back and listen to it this morning. It airs on all the various places that podcasts can be seen. And well, thank you. So here's a question. What if I have been carrying this pain for years? Can it really be healed? Oh, yes. I want you to know that it's never too late to heal. While it may feel daunting because I walked through that experience, because in the aftermath of my divorce, I wasn't doing this thing called marriage again. I was done. Because in my mind's eye, if I spent at that point a third of my life with one person, poured all that I had into that relationship, and it still failed, I wasn't doing this again. But I want you to know that at any stage of life, you can make a decision because it's a decision to be intentional for you as much as you've been intentional for others. The key to deciding that you're ready is to just let go of the past. So I went through a phase where I said to myself, I choose to believe that the people that gave me insight about a relationship and marriage were doing the best that they can. So I trusted that what I received was the best that they could give. And that was a foundation that I would start from. But it was now my responsibility to take a small step every day to test that foundation that I was given. And if it wasn't sure enough for me moving forward, put the measures that I needed in place. So it is there that I found coaches and authors and speakers and engagements to support me on the journey. And it is also one of the things that has supported me in teaching and sharing the information that I know with others. I wrote down my premiere book. A lot of you have that one, Red Alert. It's He the One, the pocket guide to finding the love of your life. That book is just an outline of the strategy that I use to overcome the elements of my divorce. It's a healing process that I walk through. And I'm hoping that if you're interested in getting it, you can go to my website, tanyaehood.com, and I'll put that information up later. But there are people that you can go to and things that you can read. Even if you aren't able to go to a seminar or one of those training sessions, pick up a book. And for the guest that I had this morning, let me pick up James's book. One more opportunity for you to get a little more insight. So I encourage you, if you are able, let me put this information across, to go to his website, datingprofilesecrets.com. If you're interested in seeing how you can use this as an online element, because that is not my expertise, find out from him. He is offering for those that say that you have seen his information here on a Red Alert Diaries podcast to get the opportunity to get a free profile assessment. It is in that assessment that he can give you some insight about how you are showing up. And if you want to go through a conversation, let me take this off for a moment so I can look at you and say out a little bit more. To gain a little more information about oops, picked the wrong thing. To gain a little more information about what I can do to support you as well. The book is available, but you can also go to my website and find me in various social media places. TanyaEhood.com. Pretty easy to locate. And we can also have a conversation separately. You can go to the Contact Me tab, schedule some time with me. There are a few slots that I have that I keep available there for conversations such as this, to pour into you various things that were poured into me so that you will not have to step on the landmines that I have already crossed. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. You do not have to walk this journey alone. You can rebuild love again. You can trust yourself again, and you can find yourself in a better place and space moving forward in the future, because you can find the love that you are looking for in your life, and it starts with you loving you. So, in the meantime, this is Tanya Ehud, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same. Take care, everyone.